What's up, YouTube? This is Users, and this video is going to be sort of part one of a series I'm going to be doing on Visual Basic, which is really just going to teach the language ground up. So I assume most of you already have Visual Basic. If you don't, I'm not going to waste any time, but I'm just going to say that it's free software, and you can get it straight from Microsoft.com. And I'll put a link in the description in case you're one of those people who don't have it. But again, I assume most of you already do. I'll be using Visual Basic 2010 Express Edition, but it really doesn't matter. Whatever version you have, they're really the same. So when you first start up Visual Basic, you're going to see this welcome screen. You can sort of X this out, and we're just going to get right to it. So we're going to go File, New Project, and you're going to get this screen here. You're going to name your program. I'm just going to call mine YouTube. Up here, you're going to specify what type. I believe Windows Forms application is the default, but we're going to keep it simple and use a console application, which really just runs on that same black screen that command prompt runs on. So we're going to go ahead and hit OK and wait for this to load up. Okay, so here we are. Our project loaded in, and you get all this stuff here. To the left and the right, you should have sort of like these menu bars when you first start it up. You can sort of minimize those. Or just X them out. Just give yourself more room to code. Now, I know there's a lot on the screen, but don't get overwhelmed. There's really only a couple things you have to keep an eye on. On the bottom here, you'll notice the error list. And here's where sort of errors pop up. If you have any errors in your code, Visual Basic sort of recognizes them, and it tells you what your errors are and what you're doing wrong. Now, sometimes the explanations can be more confusing than the error themselves. But it's a good idea to just keep an eye on this just to see how you're doing as you code. Up here, up on the top in the menu, you're going to see this little green play button, which is just to start the debugger, which runs your program. So as you code, you debug it to just check it out and make sure everything's working. Here is where the code goes. This white right here, this white screen here. Now, you're going to notice all this stuff here. Don't worry about it. We're going to get to it later, but right now, it's just you don't really have to worry about it. The only thing you need to know is any code we're going to be doing is just going to go in between sub main and end sub, so right in here. So, it's sort of customary when you're learning a new programming language to begin with HelloWorld, which is sort of the most basic program. And all it does is print Hello World to the screen. So I'm going to go ahead and write some code, and I'm going to try to explain as best as I can what I'm writing. So I'm just going to write some Hello World. So console.write Hello World, console.read key. I'm going to go ahead and magnify this just for the sake of video quality. And here we are. So if you're not completely new to programming, you'll recognize this as the class, this as the method, and this, of course, as the parameter. But if that's all gibberish to you, I'm going to try to explain this as best as I can. Whenever you're going to manipulate data on the screen, you're going to use console. Okay, when you hit dot, it's sort of getting more focused. It's sort of like this is the big idea of manipulating, the console, the screen. And when you hit dot, you're going to specify like specifically what action you want to perform. Just write whatever you put after it to the screen. Okay. So write, and then parentheses, whatever you put in here is going to be printed to the screen. So in quotes, this is a string. You pass it a string. We'll get to that in a little bit. But for now, you just put whatever you want on the screen in quotes. So I put Hello World. Down here, you'll notice a console.read key. And this action of console just sort of stops your program and says, wait until the user hits a key. So this waits for a keystroke. If I didn't have this in here, the program would pretty much just flash Hello World, and then it would say, okay, I'm done, and it would close. And we put a read key in there just to see what's on the screen, to see that everything's working fine. So that's what read key does. Now, I'm going to go ahead and run this program and just show you Hello World. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the that green play button I showed you before and start debugging. Okay, so here's our program. As you can see, it just says Hello World, and that's it. Now it waits for the keystroke. I'm going to hit enter, and it closes, and that's it. That's Hello World for you. Now, so far we know two sort of actions of the console. We know write and we know read key. I'm going to show you two more. This one is really similar to write. This one is simply console.writeLine, okay? And for this, I'm just going to say hello. These are almost exactly the same. The only difference is write simply writes this to the console. WriteLine writes this to the console, and it also sort of fills up the line or says, okay, skip this line the next time any data comes to the screen. So if I were to run this, we see that it prints out hello, and then it skips that line, and the next time we try to print something to the screen, it appears on the lower line. If I were to switch this around, though, let's say I take this line, copy it, move it down, and then we can get rid of it here, and I were to go ahead and debug this, now we see that it printed hello world, but we never told it to skip the line or fill up that line. So the next time that we try to put data on the screen, it just appears directly after it, okay? So that's really the only difference between write and WriteLine. And it's sort of useful when you want to display data in a certain way. For this particular project, just hello world alone, you really wouldn't have even noticed the difference. Now the final thing I want to show you, the final action of console, I guess, if you want to describe it that way, is clear, which is pretty self-explanatory. Console.clear, and this simply clears the console. So if I were to have a clear here and then I put another console.read key, and I were to debug this, what we would see is it prints the text that we asked it to, and now it waits for that key. When we hit that key, it skips this, it goes down to clear, clears the console, and then now it's waiting for another keystroke before finally terminating. And that's about all I really wanted to show you in this video. The last thing I just want to show you about Visual Basic, about any programming language in general really, is comments. Comments are sort of stuff you put in with your code which do nothing, but they just sort of explain things. And these are useful for organization when you're writing, more complicated code, or if you're going to share your code with anyone else, because if you don't have comments, then they have to sort of read very carefully and go through your same thought process. If you have comments, you can kind of explain what you're doing. So a comment in Visual Basic is started with a single quotation mark right to the left of enter, and you'll notice the text turns green when you do this, and then anything you put in here, anything here is ignored. It's really just a comment to explain things. That's all it is. It's not when you debug or run this program, it's completely ignored. And in addition to explaining things, comments can also be used to sort of test different things without deleting code. So if I want to try this code, but I want to take this line code out, I can simply comment this line out, run it, and then when I want to go back, I can put that back. There's also a group comment function we have. If, say, I want to take out a bunch of code, I can highlight it, okay, and then go to the top here, and right to the left of the little debugger, there's these. So if I hit this, it comments out the whole thing, and then I can just as easily bring that whole section of code back. So that's how you use comments, and they're just sort of used for organization and to test different things. So that's about it for this video. The next video I'm going to do is going to be on variables. So that's really it for now. Thanks for watching. Rate, comment, subscribe, whatever. If you have any questions, you don't understand something, leave it as a comment or message me. I'm here to help. So if you got all that down, feel free to move on, and I will see you in the next video.